Hello, welcome back to Auto Pop Culture, and today we're going over the mini-series off Netflix called Dracula. So I have I'm a huge fan of Dracula, pretty much. I love that direction of monsters. I love the thing that they're doing right now with the whole monsters universe kind of thing, or monster universe kind of thing. I'm sad because I thought I would only expect this to them to eventually go to Dracula, but I'm sure the theater side of it's gonna do their own thing, which sucks because I think that this could have been it. Um, but with this directly, it's another win for Netflix. I love this show. It's a really good show. It's decently long it's appropriately long for what it needs to do. And it's only like 3 episodes, and each episode's like a 90-minute long. But you're completely like honed in the whole time, because just like if you right when things kind of slow down is immediately when action like jumps in. So yeah, I really like it, and I have a lot to kind of talk about. So just in case you don't really know, this channel is always spoilers, unless I really think it's worth kind of jumping into blindly. This one, you don't have to jump in blindly, but at the same time, it does make it look kind of cooler. So this one pretty much is about the Dracula going from his castle to London, and pretty much the events that happens in between. And also in this thing, it kind of follows along with the book ish, but at the same time, it does a little twist to it, and so it has its own like imagination, but it's based off the book. And I think they did a good job at kind of doing the important parts of the book, because for example, like in the second episode, he goes on to the Dementor. So it's just like, hasn't been used maybe since like the very first Dracula movie that they adapted. But they didn't talk about the ship. They don't really mention the ship, but it's mentioned in the movie and in the book. So I was really happy that they brought that. But I'm gonna go through most of this as much as possible, kind of the things I remember and everything. This was actually created by Mark Gaston and Steve Moffat, who both did Sherlock and Sherlock, Doctor Who, and Jekyll. So you already know it's going to be either very nasty, because we know Jekyll was very nasty, and like as in like disgusting direction things like the gore. And we know it's going to be clever. So with Doctor Who and Sherlock has a like nice little like dry humor mixed with kind of like clever like witty like lines and dialogue. So I was really excited with this. So it pretty much starts off with Jonathan Harkin, who's played by John Heffernan, who's in The Crown. He's been in Eye in the Sky. So he in a shit ton of other things, but like he shows up. He pretty much is looking to talk to Dracula, who's played by Klaus Bang, who's been in a shit ton of things as well. Some including The Square in 2017, and the girl in the Spiderweb. Which is I still don't know what people thought about it. I haven't watched it, nor do I have an interest to watch it. But little side thing, if you have something to say about it, please leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought about that. Anyway, so yeah, he's pretty much Dracula, and so Jonathan goes to meet him, talk about like his plans to move from his castle to London. Which is fun fact: this castle was filmed and the castle Orava Castle, which is the same castle that was in Nosferatu, Nosferatu, so which is the 1922 movie. So I thought that was kind of cool, pretty original. So yeah, so he goes there, talks about the plans of him or getting in Dracula to move from his castle to London, and everything's going fine. And he's reporting this to these nuns, who, and it's kind of He's reporting it to the nuns, and he's very dried out in the present time, and they're going backwards into the flashback, which is the castle and him talking to Dracula about moving. Um, he's telling this to these two nuns, and the nuns are asking a lot of questions, and one of the nuns is like technically atheist, but he's telling the story of how he was there and how Dracula was kind of like over time sucking him dry, and he meets like the wives who are technically not wives but more of people that he also feeds into. And the rule in this one is that if he bites you, or he bites you too close to anything, like he bites you close to death to where you're like pretty much close to death, you can revive yourself by sucking other people's blood, and that will make you a vampire as well. So he's been kind of like just feeding off of him throughout the whole time, and to the point where he found a way to escape, and he escapes and runs to this church, or this nursery. I don't really know what they're called. A convent. I'm really going blank right now. I haven't ate. So anyway, so he pretty much he ends it there, and he pretty much says he escaped Dracula, and they're looking to help him, and he finds out that one of the nuns is his wife, who's Mina, who's played by Morfred Clark, who's been in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and Crawl, which I so want to see that movie, Crawl. And so we also find out that the sister is Sister Agatha, and she's played by Dolly Wells, who is a shit ton of things, countless things. She's in Blunt Talk, she's in Bridget Jones' Diary, she's also in the Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, which is a really silly, fun movie. So she pretty much reveals herself in that direction, so we get to know each other in that direction, and we also Dracula finds them but can't really go into places without being invited. Unfortunately, Jonathan invites him in from the upstairs, brings him in, he pretty much just murders everybody down, and then all the nuns, except for Sister Agatha, who we find out is the Van Helsing that they're using for this movie, a little gender swap, and also it's also not the way that he met Van Helsing in the original book, but I like this kind of turn because it gives you. I love Dolly Wells, and so what else to put her in a badass situation? So they kill her off. They kill everybody. He kills everybody off except for Mina, who runs away, and Agatha, who becomes his technically wife, or in this type of direction. Oh, bride. Sorry, and his bride indirectly, but he kind of takes her with him to the ship, and kind of feeds off of her in that direction. But the same thing that happens is that when he feeds off of people, they give him a kind of a dream, puts them in a dream state to where they have to they don't know that they're getting fed on until he tells them to. But he's very honest, very, very honest about a lot of things. He only lies a couple times to cover for himself, but the most time he's kind of pretty much very honest. He doesn't really there's no reason for him to lie, or that he thinks. So over time, they're on the boat, and everybody on the crew's on there. They're getting killed off one by one. Agatha finds out that she's on the boat, so she finally wakes herself up, and all the crew members trying to figure out what's going on finds out that Agatha's on there, and they think she's a vampire, but she's not the vampire, and she reveals that Dracula is the actual vampire. They save themselves by wrapping themselves into Bible pages on the deck. Unfortunately, a lot of them kind of jumped out of the ship, kind of to escape, and I gotta remember. I think Agatha. Pretty much, they assume that Agatha didn't survive because she pretty much burn down the whole ship. Fortunately, the ship ends up going into the, like, well, in the book, it lands with just a dog and that runs off. But in this stage, apparently, we move on to episode 3, which is, I think, is the lowest point of it. I think it's good, but I think somebody else said this in their review, but I completely agree. It kind of turns it very Lucifer-y, where he's clever, he's silly, and that's exactly where he should be. But unfortunately, Lucifer came out before this, or else this would have been a masterpiece in the third, episode. Unfortunately, he gets to London. It's like present time, but there's a Jonathan Harker company that's hunting him down to kind of study him. Who's also, this is like decades later, by the way, like decades later, when he comes back to life because he's been hibernating underwater in his little coffin, and the person that brings him out is a next generation Van Helsing, which is played by Dolly Wells as well, which just makes it easier to kind of absorb. Pretty much all that happens is that she studies him, but then he finds a way to get out because he gets a lawyer due to the fact that it's in a world of rights. So he gets his rights and he gets himself a big ass like penthouse. He turns a girl who's Lucy, who's played by Lydia West, who's only in a couple things. I'm surprised because she looks very familiar to me. Maybe I've seen Years and Years, or maybe Cycle. It's the two things that she's been in. So she's in it, and she becomes kind of like the Frankenstein's monster's wife kind of thing, but she ends up dying anyway because she instead of burying her to where she can come back to life, they cremated her, so she was very burnt. When she comes back to life and sucks blood, she's like, I'm kind of dead. Like, I'm kind of disgusting. So they end up having somebody else kill her off, I'm kind of fucked this up by adding him so late, but Jack, who's in love with her, who's also a descendant of John Harker, that's his grandpa. So he pretty much becomes the John Harker in this type of direction, and it kind of ends kind of flat, like Dracula finds out that he doesn't have to hide from the light because Agatha's been studying him through the whole time, or the descendant has been studying him through the time, and kind of like after a while he realizes he doesn't have to, like, he's not entirely scared of he's emotionally scared of the cross, not physically. And then he also doesn't really burn in this daylight, but the stake thing does work. It was kind of weird. Like, it makes no sense exactly where it was going to go. I hope there's more to it, but they made it seem like it was the end of everything, because he kills the Van Helsing, like, gets close to she pretty much dies because she's sick and she has cancer, and he dies with her. It's weird. I don't really know what the point of. They kind of they end it with them laying down together, and I can't remember if he gets stabbed or not. No, he doesn't. I don't know. It's got kind of weird at the end because I was just so thrown off about how anticlimactic it was, and so I was just like, oh, I mean, okay. Anyway, but other than that, the whole thing, the rest of the part was really, really good. Like, it's a good show. I definitely recommend watching it. I definitely think it's a really good show. I definitely think that it has some flaws, obviously, in the third act, but I think that it's worth it to kind of get to know the action, and the production is amazing, and it's very witty. It's discussed. The one thing I will point out, because I didn't get to see, I had to learn this myself, is that there are a good handful of nail scenes where, as these people are getting sucked dry, their nails are the first thing that peel off, and they'll literally just like peel it off, like, oh my god, kind of thing, and I cannot stand that. Cannot stand it. It's disgusting. Anyway, there's going to be like 3 scenes of those, so just get ready for them. You'll definitely see it. If they're being like slowly sucked out, they're gonna have a nail scene. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. I give this a 8 out of 10 due to the, docking it down for the last act. I felt like the final act was kind of blah. But yeah, 8 out of 10. Great show. It's a mini series, so I don't think it's really gonna go that far. But I'm really excited. I really hope that I hope they make a second season. I don't know how they're gonna do it with the Van Helsing being dead and she didn't really have any kids. So yeah, but leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought about the show. If you liked it, didn't like it, what was your favorite part, and stuff like that. And I shall see you guys in the next video.